Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to go back to the wood shop. I got to put a couple of holes in the back of this bottom part so I can run my HDMI cable and my power cord to the wall, HDMI cable to the TV. And I knew I was going to have to do something, but I wasn't sure what because I didn't know what they offered. I stole this thing off of an old power supply off my old desktop computer, so I'm just going to use this. I looked to see if they sold them at Micro Center, but I didn't find any, and I was hoping they had something like this that could go through the box here and then screw in, you know, the outside. I was hoping they had something like that for the HDMI, but I couldn't find anything. This is all I could find. It's just a little adapter or a little splicer, I guess, is what it is. And I'm just going to have to I'll make a hole for that and put it in and maybe just epoxy it or something. You know, I just didn't want wires hanging off of this thing. I want to be able to unplug them if I can. So this thing obviously isn't long enough to go to the wall. So, you know, and I just didn't want holes sticking out the back or whatever. Just thought I'd kind of clean it up a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to take this thing back down to the wood shop and see if I can route out a couple of holes for these to fit in. Alright, I got me a template made. I just put both holes in the same template so I can do them both at the same time. I'm using just a 1/4 inch router bit this time. So these holes are about, well, 3/8 of an inch, 3/16 all the way around, 3/8 of an inch bigger than the hole that I need, because the bushing, that's what the distance between the router bit and the bushing. So let's see how this goes. This one fits first. I expect I'm going to have to do some filing, and I did that on purpose because I want this one tight especially. So probably will have to file it a little bit, but that's looking pretty good. Alright, I had to do some filing on it, like I said, and I think that'll work out pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Put some epoxy in that HDMI. It's just sticking in there. I just kind of shoved it in. We'll put some epoxy in there. That ought to hold it alright, I would think. And we'll put a couple of screws in this guy. Find some screws to screw that down. Alright, I already put this in. Just drilled a couple of holes and used the same screws that came with it, and they've threaded in just fine. Now I'm going to use this just 2-part epoxy. And we'll put some around that other deal. Put my little cap back inside there so it wouldn't, in case I drip a little in there or push a little in there or something. It's just kind of what I thought it was going to do. That's just what I wanted it to do. Kind of ooze out there. I'm going to clean it off with some lacquer thinner here in a second. mix up a little more yet. I don't care what it looks like on the inside, I just want to glop it on there so it'll be hard to pull that back out. Yeah, I'm going to mix just a little bit more. Don't worry about the bottom too much. That way it won't pull out too much, you know, when you pull the cord out. Alright. I'm going to wipe this off. Sorry folks. Wipe this off here and it should kind of blend in there a little bit. Well, one last thing to do on the build part of it, and that's to add an outlet in here for me to plug my Raspberry Pi into, and of course that'll go to that and then out to the wall. Knock that all the way out. I'm just going to leave that a little bit, just enough to slip that in there. And actually twist that just a little bit. See if I can anyway. That should be fine. It looks about right. Just found me a couple of screws in my little screw bin. Little short one so I didn't go through the bottom. Alright, that'll hold that. Let's see. Should be more than enough right there. Split that open just a little more. I usually put black tape around the outlet to be safe, but I don't have it here with me. Okay. Well, I'll have to put a tie around that eventually, but I'm going to be taking that Raspberry Pi in and out to slide my SD card and USB stick in and out a couple of times while I'm setting this up. Well, looks like that's it for now. Now on to trying to get our games on here and stuff, which is going to be unfamiliar territory for me. Well, here's what I finally ended up with. This is a few months after you guys saw me screw the top on that thing. I had it in front of my TV in the living room for a while. Of course, that wasn't going to work for very long. So I decided to put it out here, and it's worked out pretty well. I'll show you how it works. So that way it can go up against the wall and be out of the way if anybody wants to play darts over here. So, well, anyway, I think it's kind of cool. The thing's not quite as user-friendly as I would have liked to be able to slide that up and down, but because it is a little bit heavy and you kind of have to have a little force to do it. But still, I'm the only one that does it anyway, pretty much, so it works out pretty well. I also put a switch on this thing too to be able to turn it off and on, which I didn't show. Well, that's all I've got, folks. Hope you enjoyed the videos. I know it was kind of a long series. I don't like that, but I do try to just get as much information as I can in there for people who don't know how to do some things. I know some people don't need all that information, but I guess that's why we can fast forward through the parts that we don't want to watch. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. And have fun if you decide to make something like this. It's a lot of fun to have in your game room or whatever, and your kids will probably enjoy it too. I know I do, and I'm not a kid. So anyway, thanks again, folks. And by the way, I'm in the middle of making another arcade. It's a lot nicer than this one, so stay tuned, and when I get that one finished and edited, and I'll get that out there too. Thanks a lot.